In this interview, I meet up with Jason LeVasseur. Jason is a keynote speaker, professional entertainer, summer camp program director, online teacher, and a team building expert who loves to captivate and educate his audiences. Let's welcome Jason. Thank you, Jason, for joining me today. It's awesome to have you. So I wanted to start off by asking you, you are a summer camp program director, and how are you hosting this year's summer camp? How's that going?
This summer is a really unique summer for us because we canceled the in-person camp, and we are a summer camp that is very much wilderness based and no electronics, no electricity, even in the cabins where the campers sleep. And this year we made a decision to not try to recreate camp in such a way, but to create ways to stay connected to families, to campers, and to their parents so that they feel a connection to the community throughout the summer, so that in the summer of 2021, they'll be just as excited to come back in person and see everybody. So what we've done is, we're doing a series of talent shows with camper talent and counselor talent. We're doing some pre-recorded videos with counselors doing skits that they're doing from wherever they are in the country. And then we'll upload them and maybe even include those in the variety shows. Our big kickoff is coming up next week. So we have a lot of fun stuff planned. But again, we're not trying to recreate life at camp. We're doing something that's a little bit exciting and new, and we're not an electronics camp. So this is, a fun adventure for us.
Yeah. So how to make that possible online, but still unique to.
Right. Yeah. And really the goal is connection, right? The goal is staying in touch and letting everybody know that we are still here for them. And the activities that we're going to do, at the heart of everything is making a connection.
Yeah, exactly.
The activity itself isn't necessarily the important thing, and that may be different from the classroom setting during the year, right? Or, we're doing some fun activities where one of the counselors is going to teach all the campers how to make a cheese omelet, and that'll just be a how-to video on how to crack an egg, how to mix it in the bowl, how to put it in the frying pan, and we will of course do that with parental supervision.
Yes.
Yeah.
Perfect. It sounds like a fun year.
I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Isn't change fun to mix it up?
It is. It's a lot of fun. Yes. We are in the summer camp world, we love being together. There is tons of fun in it. And so at first when we knew that we were, had to cancel, there's this moment of sadness, right? But we really realized that the reason that we love being with each other is because we do have fun with each other. Yes. And so how do we recreate that? Let's keep that going and make that our goal in the summer camp setting.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. How do you think the isolation has changed the perspective about the use of electronic and screen time for families? There's a big shift, right?
There's a big shift, but I think so on a personal level, I don't think my perspective or my philosophy of it has changed much. I think that we should spend as much time away from it as possible.
Yes.
Right. However, I'll refer back to what's the most important thing that we're doing here is that we're making connections.
Yes.
And if that's at the heart of our use of the technology, then we're using it in the right way. Yeah. So with my own children, and what I encourage with our campers is that when they are using technology, that as much as possible, there's also face-to-face interaction going on. Yeah. What that means is that if you're playing a video game, that you're playing it with a friend. And there are some really neat apps out there where you can be face-to-face with friends. And that's what we sort of in our house that is the rule. If you're going to be doing something, you have to be doing it with somebody else.
Yeah.
And it's really been nice because then they can see the expressions of their friends.
Yes.
And they can compete in a friendly way with each other and have a conversation. If the game ends, they're still having interaction with another person. But overall, I want at times for people to close their computers and to do something else.
Yes. But there is a shift from, us as parents saying, sign off, to
Yeah.
now there was a culture of sign in.
Yeah.
Make sure you sign
Yeah.
in, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I think we spoke about this the other day that, you know, our slogan for the summer camp, our motto is where boys come to unplug and connect. It's a residential boys summer camp, and it's an old traditional camp. And we have a sister camp, and that's where my daughters go to camp. But our slogan is where boys come to unplug and connect. And we really had to think about that. Like, well, actually, we need to plug. We need to plug in to make the more important part of our slogan is the connect part.
Yes.
Right. It's wonderful to be able to unplug in the summer when you're not working, you know, when you're not in school. But really, the only way right now and the best way is to plug in to make the connection. So we're using the technology in a really, purposeful way that it's serving our needs as humans to be with each other.
Yeah. Yes,
Yeah.
that's exactly right. That's my next question is,
Okay.
why is connection so important right now for our kids? Like, what's happening?
Okay, yes, it's so important for our kids, but it's not just important for our kids. It's
Yeah.
important for you. It's important for us as parents.
Everybody.
It's important for teachers, and it's really important for everybody. And you're right, it is important for everybody. We as adults are maybe able to put this in a better perspective and to see this as a chapter of our lives. And so we know that at some point we will probably be able to get back together and have tea or coffee with a friend, right? But as adults, but not all of our kids will be able to have that long-term perspective on this. You know, they might think this is the way the rest of their lives is going to be. Right.
Right.
But we need to encourage them to realize that this is a stage of our lives. But even in this time, it's really important for kids to laugh with each other and to have fun with each other and to play games with each other. And that connection is just very important part of their development at different stages of their lives, to disagree with a peer, to laugh with a peer, to have an argument with a peer over the best way to accomplish a goal or do something. And being able to do that in a team setting online is very important for the development of the child.
Yes. And if your connections are not, close to you, now the world is your connection, right? We talked about that.
Yeah. I love that idea that that everyone is our neighbor, right? That you're in Vancouver and I'm in Nashville, Tennessee, and we are just as far apart from each other as my neighbor, right?
Yes.
If I want to talk to my neighbor, I'm going to do a Zoom call. So that means that you and I are neighbors. That means that we can have friends globally, as long as they're not asleep and they can talk to us. Then
yes,
we can have friends everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah, it changed. It's like, our kids can have friends all over the world. It's just, from every change, you have to take the positives, right?
Yes, definitely. And it's okay to also have been overwhelmed by this whole thing, right? This is our current chapter of our lives. And it will be different when someone is watching this video. We'll be in a different chapter of this book that we're in, that is our current, stay at home spring of 2020, spring, summer 2020.
Exactly. And you're an entertainer, so you have been making this experience very unique and special for your, students and other viewers. How do you do that through the screen? Like, how do I make it engaging?
Yeah, it's really real, sort of embracing the idea that this is our stage, right? That this is the stage that we've been given. If you are a speaker or a performer, you already sort of know how to do that, right? You know how to engage, but then you just have to just sort of embrace that here's my stage, right? And let me present the things that I know how to do from this stage. But all the things that I know how to do are also things that can be learned. Like I've learned many, many games that I've taken from summer camp, team building activities that we've altered to fit this platform, right? If we're going to high five somebody, we can still high five. It's going to be more comical, right? But so we engage through the stories and with movement and the ability to have this interaction.
Yeah.
So as an entertainer, there's the sound that you have to figure out, but it's all very manageable and accessible. And I think that at first glance, it seems like an overwhelming feat, but I've seen so many amazing parents and friends and advisors at colleges just embrace it. Like
Yeah.
just embrace it and learn just a couple little things that will help them have a better experience online. And that it, from the position of your computer, the camera, to the lighting, to not, having a window behind you, just those simple things that make you, and if there are parents watching this and you're talking to a group of people, how does your stage look? What is on your stage? What have you put on your stage? And if it's your kitchen fridge, that's fine, right? Right? But is the light coming from behind you? Can I see your face? Can you see your own face right now? If you can't see your face, then your friends can't see your face.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
And you also bring it to life through music.
Yes, yes. I use music in all of my events.
Nice.
So I do workshops and classes, but everything that I talk about is leadership through being in a band and your influence on your team as a band member and what instrument you play and what you bring to the band.
Yes.
Yeah.
And how do we something that comes up with being online a lot is online safety, right? For our,
Yes.
especially for our kids,
Yeah.
right? What do you do in your family to make sure that your kids are safe?
Well, we have very open conversations about the world and about the just the normal dangers of walking in a city by yourself, when we're at that stage or when we were at that stage, but being very honest and open. And also, it's okay to have rules and in your home. It's absolutely okay to have rules. And for us, there's no internet usage privately. There's no, like, the gaming, the FaceTime. Really, it's more public. I mean, our daughter's 13, and sometimes she says, "Can I go talk to a friend in my room?" And we know who she's speaking with, and she knows that other people are not invited into the conversation because we've set those parameters.
Yeah.
But in terms of like YouTube searches and Google searches, those happen in a public space in our house.
Yeah.
So that the screen is facing the room. So that we have computers set up so that we as a family are in the same space. We're not reading over their shoulder, but they're fully aware that they're being monitored. And it's not a trust thing, right? It's not a trust thing. It's that one click of a button of searching a word that they've never heard before can lead to a place that you don't want to be.
Yeah.
Right. And to be there, and because we've educated our children to be independent and to search for things, and you know what, we don't know the answer to that, let's just Google it. Right. Yeah. And so we've taught them that way of doing it. So if they hear a word from a friend or a neighbor, or they just happen to see it in a video, and they're like, "What does that mean?" And then you Google that thing, and whatever imagination right now you think that thing is, it's there and it can be searched, right? Yeah. So if they're alone in their room and they're searching that, then there's no ability to have the conversation about that.
Yes.
And to make it a teachable moment where you can talk about what adults do and what teens do and what children do and what's appropriate at different stages of your life. And that's a whole nother conversation.
Yes, yes. I look at it as like, if somebody, my son was to bring someone home, if they walked through my door, I would know if they're physically coming, right?
Right.
Whereas he has this whole wide world coming into his room. If I don't monitor, I don't know who he is with. Right. So it's such a big responsibility. I mean, at that age, they don't know, right? So it's a parent.
Right. It's and it is absolutely okay to be a parent, not a friend, right? Our responsibility is parents first, like, and to set parameters and rules and structure, because that's how our children will thrive.
Yes.
They're okay with rules. Yes. As much as they might fight back, that actually is so helpful for them to have that structure. Yeah,
and when they fight back, you just have to give them the explanation why, right? Why are you?
Yes, if you want to, yes, I agree with you 100%. Because you can explain why.
Yes.
Right? If you have a rule and you don't have a reason why you do it, then maybe you should rethink why you have that rule. But if you have a rule, you probably have a really good reason why. Just talk to your kids about it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
explain 100%. It to them. Not and because I said so, because this is my house, because I'm the parent. Like, that's not going to help you. So for parents out there, just be honest and open and develop a relationship of conversation and dialogue, even if it's uncomfortable. That's a whole nother workshop, having uncomfortable conversations with your kids, right? But you're going to have them. And let's do them now while they are, I don't know, if your kids are 10 and 13, do it now so that when they're 17, they know they can come to you and
Yes.
have an open conversation about things that, and I don't mean to talk around, the topics, but
Yes. No, no, go ahead.
yeah,
So
just
very important.
yeah, that we start those conversations as soon as possible about any topic that you think your child will need to know about. When we hear stories about somebody discovering at the age of 13 that they are starting their menstrual cycle and they've never heard of it.
Yeah.
Right. That's a disservice to that child's development. And that's just one example. And that's a conversation that I had with my own daughter this morning,
Mm.
that we had known somebody whose older sister did not know
With that.
about what, and she thought she was dying, really, literally. Anyway, so not to get off topic, but I'm encouraging all parents to know what your kids are doing online.
Yep.
And to know who they're talking to online, and to set those rules and parameters, and be very clear about it. I mean, no, we have friends who have a basket in their kitchen, and the devices go in the basket, and the kids can go to their room. Like a telephone is the World Wide
Machine.
Web.
Yeah, it's a machine.
It's the World Wide Web.
Yeah.
And it's not on a laptop or an iPad. Those are equally accessible to everything. And even with parental controls, which I think are wonderful, which I encourage everyone to really understand that on their own computers, but just make all that usage more centralized in your home.
Yeah, set healthy guidelines, right, for your family.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
follow it for sure. And the next thing I want to ask is, you're thinking of homeschooling one of your children, right?
Yes.
I was wondering, how did that come about, and why are you deciding to do that? What's the reason?
We are definitely deciding to do it just because of we love our teachers, we love our school, but one of the conversations that our younger daughter has had with us, even for a couple of years, she had another friend who was homeschooled, and was really interested in some of the classes she was able to take, right? Because they're right, like we said, we have the world.
Yes.
We have amazing online teachers who can deliver amazing content. And if we have the choice to have the best teachers, let's have the best teachers.
Yes.
And it also, so as a family, and my wife is a teacher, and you don't have to be a teacher to homeschool. Like this is because there's so many resources, because there's so many helpful tools out there and communities of homeschooling. The things that made us rethink it a couple years ago are no longer there. We actually are really excited about the possibilities of making these connections with other parents and other communities and teachers who can help our own daughter learn certain things, but it also frees her up to paint for a few hours. If she wants to paint for 3 hours after lunch and she has accomplished all of her goals for the day academically, let's do that. Let's do a block of time when you can just go sit in the yard and lay in the grass and look at the sky. Yes. And daydream, look at the clouds and think about what those clouds show you. And those are opportunities that we couldn't do in a structured school environment.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And you also noticed something during the lockdown, right? Like when she was home, you noticed that.
Yes. So we have two very different children, and our younger daughter just thrived academically. She really enjoyed independent work. Yeah. And she dug into workbooks that she had been doing at school that were on a very specific timeline. So she was working with the class, and she went way ahead, not because, because she was curious about it. She wanted to explore that. And we wanted to follow her. I mean, in Montessori, it's follow the child, and that they were at a Montessori school, but there was this one thing that they were doing anyway, we can get into I love the Montessori philosophy, but really following our child, and she is genuinely learning all the things she needs to learn, but also it's opening up more opportunities for her to do the things she wants to do. Yeah. And we're very excited for her because she's happy about it. And even in the last couple of years, she would not want to go to school. Yeah. And we think it's the best school in the world.
Yeah.
We loved it. We thought this is the greatest. My wife teaches at the same school, and our older daughter goes to the same school, and our younger daughter just wasn't her thing.
Yeah.
So what's going to be her thing? And she is so excited about this next year.
It's awesome.
Yeah, it really is.
Would you have done it? Would you have noticed or done it if it wasn't for the lockdown? Like,
Um,
were you,
the lockdown gave us a testing ground,
yeah.
right? So it had been something we had talked about, but last fall. It's something we spoke about last spring, because our younger daughter really was like, I don't want to go to school. I want to be homeschooled.
Mm.
So as a touring performer, one of the reasons for that we thought was because I was home.
Yeah.
So if I was on tour and then I came home, and my daughter would have a headache and want to stay home with me.
Yeah.
Right? She'd say, "Oh, I don't feel good. I don't want to go to school." We thought it was about me. We thought it was all about me.
She likes
really, yeah, she likes being with me. And really, in fact, she just didn't want to go to school either. But there was somebody who was going to be home, so she wouldn't have to go to school.
Yeah.
Right? Because the reasoning she had to go to school is, my wife would say, "Well, I have to go to school. I can't leave you here alone. You're 7 years old." And that anyway, that's just where we live. But now we're gonna the virus has created this, really opened up a lot of like beautiful ideas.
Yep.
And possibilities. And so we got to test something that we'd only talked about. And in the testing of it, we realized that it was really a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
Even though both of our kids thrived, our older daughter wants to graduate the 8th grade from the school. Yep. So she wants to complete her next year. And we're going to make that a possibility for her. Yeah. So, both for our children and for me professionally, it's been really a fun, we've enjoyed it, and we've encouraged all of our connections and friends and families and through summer camp to really look for the beautiful things that have come from this.
Yeah. Same. Yeah. Same.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a pause, right? It was a pause. Like we were all going at a speed. Maybe it wasn't a healthy speed for, some of us, right? Like, it was like something we're racing to, but now we kind of had this pause to rethink.
Yes, I think it was a nice, it allowed everyone to have some reflection time.
Yeah.
Now, I hope if you're listening to this, that you actually turned off the television and you took some time to reflect and go for walks, right? Because we also know families who have not been thriving through this because they have been consumers of media, and that's how they've filled their time. Nothing else, just TV all day, movies, games, no creative flow, no real like intent on growing or learning, just consuming and acting as if this will pass. This is like a vacation and we're just watching TV for vacation, right? And I don't think that they're going to thrive. In my opinion, I think that you have to get off the couch.
Harder.
It's very hard.
Yeah, for sure. And I was going to say one more comment about what you said about Montessori school and child-led education, right? It's so easy for parents to just take the lead from the child. Then there's this battle, right? Like between the child and what to do, because they'll actually tell you. Then that's how you get that motivation. Everybody says, how do I motivate my kid?
Yeah.
Follow their lead.
There will be things that they may be less interested in, but maybe we can teach it to them in a different way, or present it in from a different angle, right? And the beauty of our connections with professional educators is that we can get cool ideas to tell stories to introduce an idea in mathematics. Like you can tell a story to introduce an idea in science. You can tell a story about history. You can tell a story through writing. And I think go ahead. But no, the important,
oops, you go ahead.
Connection before content, right?
Yes.
That's something that I think we agree on, is that even when we do this at summer camp, and I do this with all the students that I work with virtually, even if you're in college or if I'm working with a company, I'm not going to try to teach you content until we've made a connection, until we've had fun together, until you've gotten to know other people in the space and you feel comfortable and confident that your input matters and you have a voice, right? So we need to do the same with our children. We need to spend time with them in play or in just spending time with them unstructured. And you'd be amazed what 5 minutes of that will do for the lesson that you're about to teach.
Oh, yes. Very, very important. That's not my number one thing. So on your website and stuff, you say that make leadership fun. What do you mean by that? And how do you do that?
That's a great question. And I think some of it has to do with the way that I present.
Yeah.
I connection before content again. Like, let's have fun. Let's spark the brain and elevate your mood. And then you're going to be more open to learning new things. And I do fun through gaming, through activities, through music. And it's not necessarily always me playing. Sometimes I have special guest appearances on my workshops because here's the fun thing is that we have, I know hundreds of performers all over the world who maybe at 11 a.m. on a Friday aren't busy. And I say, hey, would you show up for 3 minutes and make a cameo appearance in my Zoom call and play the djembe and tell a story? And they're like, yeah, of course, let's do that. So it's incorporating all these other things. But the funification or the gamification of teaching is a tool that just helps spark the brain, right? So even when I'm doing an hour-long workshop with college students on leadership transitions or club and organizational budgets, I know from the performance world that there's a finite time that somebody can pay attention. So I break it up. I break it up with something that changes the way the mind is thinking in a moment so that it can come back to this other thing. And that, you know, there are hundreds of really fun games that we could play, you know, and if an example I'll give you one quick one. So if you're just meeting a group of people for the first time, or you're meeting a group of students in a classroom setting online, just ask everyone to go get an object. Just look around the room. Everybody grab something that is interesting and unique to you that you want to tell us about. Tell us a story about that thing. And this can be a 3 or 4 minute activity, you know, depending on the number of people you have on your screen. And then, you know, Kohila, you'll grab whatever's on your desk that you want to tell a story about. And, you know, here, I'll just grab these scissors and I'll tell you why I love these scissors, you know, because I like to craft. I like to cut things up. I like to glue things to paper, you know, so you can just use that activity as what one would call an icebreaker, but it's really a game to make a connection. Because as I tell you the story about the scissors, you learn that I like to do crafting. So now you know me better, right? And whatever it is, the object on your desk that you told me about, I'll get to know you better.
Yes.
And in that moment, we've made a greater connection.
Yes, yes, and it breaks the sitting, like especially when we're doing this type of like know, meetings, right? You can't sit for long, right? Like sitting.
Right. Well, I don't know if you noticed, but I'm standing.
You are standing. Yes.
Yeah, and I sat. So in March, when I first went to being an online presenter, I was sitting all day long, and then at the end of the day, I was exhausted. I was too tired to go for a walk.
Yes.
So now, what I've made the decision, and I encourage you and everyone else who's listening to this, do this. Figure out a way to set it up so that you can stand, because you know what you can do when you get tired is you can sit.
Yes. That's the nice part.
If I get tired, I can actually move this computer from the stand it's on and go lower. And I can sit and I can lower my microphone. And it doesn't change the experience. I mean, I believe that I'm maybe more dynamic as a speaker if I'm standing.
Yes, it does.
You know, but I also the way that I set it up as a teacher and facilitator, I have out here that you can't see. It's not on stage. You know, I have other things. I'm only showing you, like, I have other things that I can use to teach. And this is just ways to engage. Like when I talk about something or somebody says something good, I can just use. And these are just simple tools. This is a 3x5 card. You can get a whole pack. You can get a whole pack of these. You know, and you don't even have to leave your house. They'll come to your door.
Yes. Yes.
Sharpie, Sharpie and colorful cards. You know, most of my lessons are outlined in, and I use visuals. And I just hold them up to the screen and let people know what I'm talking about, so that if I say a word, I can hold up the word and you can see the word, and we all learn a little bit differently. So I try to give everyone different ways to absorb the information.
Yes. Very cool. Very cool experiences.
Yeah, I have fun. So your question was, how do I have fun? I think I approach it as I'm having fun already. Like, I'm excited to see somebody.
Yes.
Right. And we as humans have mirror neurons in our brains. So we react to the expressions of others. And this is why it's really important that we encourage our children, if they're going to be online, to have the screens on.
Mm-hmm.
so that they can see the expressions of their friends,
Yes.
because typed words can be misinterpreted
Yeah.
without expression. So if you smile, I'll smile, right?
Mm.
It's just what happens, right?
Yeah.
We see each other's faces, and so that's part of my fun, is that I'm ready to have fun.
Mm-hmm.
There's lessons to be taught, but we're also just excited to see each other.
Yes. Yes. Number one.
Yeah, number one.
Finally, I want to ask you,
Yes.
what would you advise parents who are like on the fence of thinking of homeschooling and and life sometimes right now,
Yeah.
it's uncertain times. So
Yeah.
sometimes life feels like that.
Yeah.
What would you say
Um,
to them?
you don't need to know everything. You don't need to know everything. If you feel like you're totally lost and you don't know what you're doing, you are not alone, right? That's you don't have to have all the answers. You don't need to know the curriculum for the whole year. You don't even need to know the first week's curriculum yet. Like, you don't. The resources that are out there in the world right now are so wonderful and so great that you
Yes.
don't need to know everything.
Yeah.
You don't need to know very much at all. Actually, it's okay if you don't know anything. Right now, you don't even know your name, and you're still okay.
Yes.
Like, genuinely, I really think that it's just this fear that so many parents feel that they don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
But what a wonderful time to have access to you, to have access to all these great teachers, to have access to these homeschool communities, because you could join a homeschool community, a parent community, with folks in Vancouver, San Francisco, Dallas, Portland, Maine, and all of you are,
Germany.
yeah, Germany, exactly, Dubai,
Anywhere.
Botswana, yes. And
Yes.
that's the beauty of it, really, uh, these opportunities, and once you start searching and learning, and I'm sure that the other folks who you're going to be interviewing, and
Yeah.
you alone as a resource, like a parent having access to you is going to be great. Like a parent if a parent has your email, like, they're lucky, right? Because
Yeah,
you
there's a
are,
lot of
yeah, right,
lot of
because,
speakers here as well on this
yeah,
that's giving so much value. Yeah, for
yeah.
sure.
Oh, wonderful. That's
Yeah,
great.
yeah, for sure.
So that's what I would say to parents. If you are worried, you're not alone, and it's okay to be worried, and it's okay to be scared, and you're gonna rock it. You're gonna rock it because you're here. Like, just the fact that you showed up here and you're watching these videos means that you're gonna be great.
Yes.
'Cause-
I want to add one more question if it's okay.
Of
It's
course.
about college students. You know how
Yes.
it's
Hmm.
a big it's a big transition, right, for parents. And
Hmm.
there's sometimes there could be a lot of misunderstanding between, because they're becoming an adult, right?
Hmm.
And when you see these kids, what can parents do to either prepare them or, help them in that transition? Like, do you work with parents?
Oh, I do work with parents. Yes.
Yes.
I think the parents of younger students can start helping the college transition by offering opportunities for your children to leave home now, to do, if there's, whether it's a day camp or a summer camp, or if in the fall there are other homeschooling opportunities with groups where you're not involved,
Yeah,
where
so separate.
you separate yourself and let your child fall down on their own,
Mm.
and get up on their own, and learn to advocate for themselves. And I think for parents to dropping their kids off at summer camp or anywhere at school, or at a homeschool group or at college, is that you drop your child off and then you leave.
Yeah.
Get out of the way,
Yeah.
right? Like, I mean that with the most love.
Yes.
One of the best things you can do for your children is to leave them alone and let them be alone without you, to learn how to navigate the world, right? One of our big responsibilities as parents is to help our children become uh, happy, healthy, self-directed, confident young adults.
Yeah.
And if we're always there, moving chairs out of the way so they don't bump their head, if we're there calling their teachers because of something, or if we're always there paving the way, then our children will never learn how to do that for themselves.
Yeah.
So how to make it easier for parents? I don't want it to be easier for parents. Let's make it easier for your kids,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Parents be parents, and then let your children grow up.
Yeah. And that's the first step, right? Like, let's
It's
separate
so
yourself.
hard. Yeah, it's so hard,
Yeah.
right? I love my daughters.
Yeah.
I want to keep them at home till they're 50. I don't want them to go away, right? I don't want them. I love them. I
Yeah.
love them.
Yeah.
But part of if we were meant to be at home, like, I heard somebody say this. In adolescence, part of our brain, as we're growing, we are separating from our parents. Like that's
Yes.
part of the evolution. And if we didn't have that as humans in our evolution,
Yeah.
we would marry our first cousins.
Yeah.
We would never leave home, and we would stay in the home. But we as humans want to break free from our parents, and that's what's made I guess that's made us healthier as in the evolution of the brain.
Yes.
And we need to encourage that in a very healthy way.
Yeah. Yeah. It is hard,
It's very hard. Yeah.
yeah, it's,
Now, I will say, monitor your children's internet behavior. So, like, there's two sides of this. Like, when they're 17 and they're going off to college, or they're 18, stay out of their way. Be there for them. Let them know you love them. And anytime they call, be available if you can. But when they're 12 or even 15 or 16 and they're living at home, know what they're doing online. Be present. Be engaged in that part of your relationship with them.
Yeah.
Right.
Strong. It's very important. It builds a strong connection. Even they're away from you.
Yes. And I guess I would say that my older daughter, who's 13, sometimes is very frustrated by us, by our rules. And yet she still goes to bed and loves us and wakes up the next morning, and she's glad that we're her parents.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Yeah. That's what teenagers does, right?
Right.
That's what they do.
Yeah. And I do work with a lot of graduating seniors and their families, and a lot of incoming freshmen and their families. And it's really, it's a wonderful time of life. It really is. I mean, all of it is. The whole thing. We're very lucky to be on this planet.
If it wasn't for their stages of change, parenting would become boring. If they're always like a 2-year-old, it's not fun anymore, right? It's good to have those changes.
Well, yeah. And just when you got good at being a 2-year-old parent, they're 3, and then they're 4. And
because they teach us every time they grow, we learn with them. And also I love, one of the things that I enjoy as a mom is that I went back and did stuff that I didn't do when I was a child with my son.
Right.
It gives you another opportunity to go, swim in the lake or something.
Yeah. And
I didn't have enough of.
But I also think that the beauty of the homeschool opportunity is that we can structure longer weekends. We can have more adventures as a family. We're not necessarily
tied to the schedule,
they're tied to the school calendar, and pretty much most of the homeschool calendars are really they're flexible, but they're not August 15th to June 20th. Like you can pick and choose.
Yes.
Right, because we can be involved in one homeschool class for a year, or a fall, or a spring, or here's the crazy thing. My older daughter is taking a high school Spanish class. She asked if she could do it, and she's not even in 8th grade, and she is 1/3 of the way through the entire year, and she started it 5 weeks ago. She happens to love the class, so every day she's excited to go learn. And and she's taking a high school Spanish class, which we never suggested to her that she do. It was her idea because she has developed a love of learning.
Yeah, that's her.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's great.
Thank you, Jason. This is amazing.
Thanks.
Yes, and I think what you're doing is amazing because connection. That was one thing that I really so important right now, and you're bringing it.
Absolutely. Thank you. Yes. Thank you for connecting with me.
Yes.
Thanks for inviting me to be a part of this. I'm excited to spend more time learning from all the other interviewees.
Yes.
And I can't wait to talk to you again.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.